ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। 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 ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। मुखाकरोति वाचालं पङ्गुरं गायते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुदिनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्य ईश्वरं। नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते जयपताक स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमाचार्यपादाय निताय कृपप्रदायिने गौरकथा दामदाय नगरग्रामतारिणे। नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यादेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधरा श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे।
Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavad?
Bhagavad Gita, first chapter, text 10. I'll start with a very spiritual couple, Rashi and Krish. They were nearly on the verge of divorce over thermostat in the house. Rashi would always feel very cold, so she always wanted the temperature to be higher. And Krish, he would say, no, the home should be like the Himalayas. The colder, the better. More austerity, more sense control, it is better. But they would not talk. Early in the morning, she would raise the temperature. He'll go and reduce it. So the Kurukshetra began every morning in this way. One day, Rashi asks Krish, why is it that you keep this temperature so low? My feet is cold, my hands are cold. And he says, look, I don't listen to you. I only listen to higher vibrations. And when everything is cool, then I'm able to be aligned to spiritual life. By the way, as you know, the story is not about the thermostat. What is it about? The ego, the false ego of I want it the way I want it. Why? Because I think that what I know is better. So today we are going to discuss this verse of Bhagavad Gita, where enlightenment, but on a practical application level of how we can understand our relationships with our husband, with our child, with our wife, with our leader in the community, with our boss, with the people we deal with the friends, with the neighbors. But especially we'll focus on marriage, because if we are able to maintain dignity and be honest in our relationship with our partner, every other relationship also becomes easy. So we are reading from the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 1, text 10. Aparyaptam tadasmakam balam bhishmabhirakshitam paryaptam tvidam balam bhimabhirakshitam. Aparyaptam tadasmakam balam bhishmabhirakshitam paryaptam tvidametesham balam bhimabhirakshitam aparyaptam tadasmakam balam bhishmabhirakshitam paryaptam tvidametesham balam bhimabhirakshitam. Okay, so word by word translation. Very important to understand what we are talking about. Aparyaptam, you can repeat if you like. Aparyaptam, immeasurable. Tat, that. Asmakam, of ours. Balam, strength. Bhishma, by grandfather Bhishma. Abhirakshitam, perfectly protected. Paryaptam, limited. Tu, but. Idam, all this. Etesham, of the Pandavas. Balam, strength. Bhima, by Bhima. Abhirakshitam, carefully protected. Our strength is immeasurable and we are perfectly protected by grandfather Bhishma. Whereas the strength of the Pandavas, carefully protected by Bhima, is limited. See the attitude, no? Attitude in the... So, purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Herein, an estimation of comparative strength is made by Duryodhana. He thinks that the strength of his armed forces is immeasurable, being specifically protected by the most experienced general, grandfather Bhishma. On the other hand, the forces of the Pandavas are limited, being protected by a less experienced general Bhima, who is like a fig in the presence of Bhishma. Duryodhana was always envious of Bhima because he knew perfectly well that if he should die at all, he would only be killed by Bhima. But at the same time, he was confident of his victory on the account of the presence of Bhishma, who was far superior general. His conclusion that he would come out of the battle victorious was well ascertained. Okay, so what we are looking at here is that Duryodhana is hiding behind his insecurity. And we'll look into this mentality today. This is the Duryodhana mentality. The topic today is how the Duryodhana mentality can ruin our marriage, our relationships, our connection with other human beings. Relational harmony is ruined when control becomes more important than connection. Okay, so Duryodhana is so lucky. He has all these great personalities like Bhishma and Drona and Karna, very powerful people. They are very loyal to Duryodhana, unfortunately, right? They're very loyal to him. That's why misplaced loyalty is also very dangerous. We always glorify loyalty, but if we are loyal to the wrong person, finished. So here, Duryodhana is overconfident that these personalities, he says, they have come here on this battlefield to give up their lives for my sake. Saraswati Devi is entering on his tongue just right before the battle. And he's predicting they will all die. Which person before waging the war will declare that my people will die? It's stupidity, right? But he's saying that out of insecurity. So, Duryodhana syndrome. What is this Duryodhana syndrome? What is it? What do you think it is? What is the quality there? Yeah, overconfidence, pride, arrogance, right? And then the domination. My way is right. There is a tendency to think in life that I am the Pandava, the other person is the Kaurava. But actually, our Vaishnava acharyas say that in Kali Yuga, the Kaurava and Pandava, unlike in Dwapara Yuga, which was, in the extended family, In Kali Yuga, in the one's mind, there is Pandava and Kaurava. Not only in the house, there is Kurukshetra, but inside our minds also there's Kurukshetra. So, the need to dominate comes when we feel less. So let me get into this verse, Sanskrit verse, where Duryodhana is boasting, right? Illusion of superiority. We read the verse and it said, aparyaptam. How many of you speak Hindi here? Paryapta, aparyapta, right? Yeah. So it's a double meaning word here. Aparyaptam has two meanings. So in the verse, what did we say? What is aparyaptam? We just read that.
Limited.
Aparyaptam, unlimited. But you know what is another word? What Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakur says? Aparyaptam also means not enough.
Not enough.
Paryapta, aparyapt. It's not enough. So our strength is immeasurable. That's what he's saying. But actually the meaning is our strength is not enough. It's not enough what we have. So Duryodhana's egoistic mentality is thinking, Bhishma is there, Drona is there, they are unlimited strength, but it's not enough. What is not enough? He knows they have a weakness towards the Pandavas. And it shows that when we are proud, our mentality of thinking I am greater than them is only insecurity, because I have a sense of lack in me. Like if a wife feels my husband is always superior, so if she tries to show superiority, it means that she feels inferior. Also the other way around, the husband. If the husband thinks that just one day because he folded the clothes, he has done a great favor to the family. Or sometimes he exerts dominance. You should listen to me. Why didn't you tell me? And if he feels triggered by it, it means that there is some level of insecurity hidden inside. So let's look a little bit at this insecurity and fear. And like Prabhuji, what's your name? Vinodji said, overconfidence, right? The overconfidence is covering his anxiety. If you remember what happened when the Pandavas were sent into exile, they were in the forest, lying down on the leaves and wearing tree barks and eating roots and fruits. Duryodhana was living in the palace. Aragina maneyoಳಗೊಂದು ಪಾಂಡವರನ್ನು ಕೊಲ್ಲಬೇಕೆಂದು ದುರುಳ ಕೌರವ ಬಂದು ಅತಿ ಹರುಷದಲ್ಲಿರುತ್ತಿರಲಂದು ಹರಿಕೃಪೆ ಅವರಲ್ಲಿದ್ದ ಕಾರಣ ಘೋರ ದುರಿತ ಬಯಲಾಗುವುದಿಲ್ಲವೇ ಬಂದದ್ದೆಲ್ಲ ಬರಲಿ ಗೋವಿಂದನ ದಯೆ ಒಂದಿರಲಿ. You know what that means, right? Pandavas were sent on an exile because of the crooked-minded Duryodhana, his narcissistic mentality, his envious mentality, that he sent them into the forest. He was living in the palace. Was he happy? Why? He was constantly obsessed. What the Pandavas are doing? What weapons are they getting? Who are they making truce with? It is described that he could not sleep peacefully, nor could he eat peacefully, because he was constantly absorbed, sending spies to look at what the Pandavas were doing. So what happens? We are looking at this ego. Because Duryodhana was unable to admit his weakness, he was unable to tell Drona and Bhishma that, look, I have this tendency that I don't want to give even one little piece of land to this Pandavas. I'm struggling with this. He didn't admit that that's a struggle. He turned it against to the Pandavas and said, they need to be banished. Similarly, in our own lives, when we feel some vulnerability, some weakness, instead of telling to our partner, my dear husband, today I really feel this emotion of anger. I really feel jealous. Instead of that, what do? I mean, I'm giving a woman example here. We'll get to the man example a little later. Maybe the woman will say, you never give time to me. Aparyaptam. You're always busy. You don't love me. How many of you have heard that among Prabhuji's? The woman complaining that we don't get enough time and attention, right? So the opposite also can happen. The man can also feel blamed. So he may not actually admit that, look, I've had a very intense day. I'm unable to, I have my own pressures. Instead, they say, I'm doing so much for you. I just bought you this gift. I brought you this flowers. The man essentially is more into action. So vulnerable admission can save us from this Duryodhana mentality of taking shelter of our weakness and masking that with overconfidence instead of admitting that I feel anxious. Okay, does it make sense? So in Bhagavad-gita, Krishna is actually saying Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavihastini, right? He's actually saying we need to learn that humility. We need to learn that equality, because in order to have relational harmony, in order to have a mature relationship, even to spiritually advance, we cannot be emotionally immature. If we are emotionally mature, we cannot be spiritually mature. Sometimes we forget that. Sometimes we are talking about high level philosophy, we are talking about spiritual world, but then when it comes to general daily conversations with our partner, with our friends, there is the ego masking it. There's an insecurity masking as a domination. So like I was saying, this principles is not just in a marriage relationship. I was hearing like even in religious organizations, there can be tendencies to think that I am a better leader. You are not. What I am saying is right. So this mentality can really become more like a weapon that is harming us instead of actually helping us to advance spiritually. So especially in spiritual organizations, if we do not practice emotional maturity, emotional vulnerability, then we become divided. And then we become like the stick story we all learned as kids. If you try to break a stick, it breaks very quickly. But if we put many sticks together, it doesn't break. So we are all, when in foreign countries, we feel a little bit alone. We would like to have family, community. But when we come together, one spiritual leader used to say, when we come together in a spiritual community, it's like being in a hospital. Everybody's sick. Not everybody's healthy in a hospital when we go. So it's like two sandpaper. When they rub against each other, it hurts. There's the ego of one person and the ego of another person. So the Duryodhana mentality is here. It's easier to think that that person is behaving like Duryodhana, but the Duryodhana is in my head, in my consciousness. So identifying that means, am I giving more importance to power than partnership in a marriage situation? Am I giving more importance to connection, or am I giving more importance to I want to be right? Okay, I do have many devotees here in Zoom. I do have a PowerPoint that I wanted to share some key points. Even if you don't see it, it is all right, because I'm going to say it out loud. So today I want to speak about this, call it acronym, ACID. You know what is the ACID? The A stands for arrogance, to the mentality to think that I'm always right. I'm the husband, I'm always right. I'm older, I'm always right. I'm the mother or the father, so I'm right and my child is wrong. So the mentality to think that I know everything. Actually, in modern psychology, it's called the Kruger effect. It's a syndrome. It's like a personality disorder. They think they know when they actually don't know. Basically, you don't know that you don't know. So that is the Duryodhana mentality, to not admit that I don't know. Duryodhana didn't know how to handle his insecurities. And Duryodhana was valuing power more than relationships, even with Drona and Bhishma. And competition over cooperation. This is another mentality of Duryodhana. He could have enjoyed a good life. He could have been happy. All life he could have been. Pandavas would have given him everything. They would have been happy with little village. They would have been peaceful. But that envious nature of Duryodhana, which is a psychological sickness to dominate and fearing to give anything to anybody. So our Vaishnava acharyas say that the psychology behind Duryodhana's words, it is the opposite of what he's saying. Aparyaptam tadasmakam. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is one of our acharyas, saints. He says that actually that aparyaptam implies insignificancy. And he saying our troops are not up to the standard. We cannot fight against the Pandavas. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is explaining the psychology. So sometimes it is not what it appears. Maybe our partners are angry, someone else is angry. So instead of jumping to conclusions, we can actually see both sides without partiality. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains how Bhishma's heart was not fully into the fight. He was blowing the conch shell so loudly, like to show that, hey, I'm with you. But still, Duryodhana's heart was not peaceful. So similarly, when in our lives, when we are fighting and we are winning it, I'm on top of the conversation. But the truth is not whether I win the argument. The truth is, how is my heart experiencing? Am I experiencing God in my heart? Or am I giving ego the bigger throne in my heart? So Duryodhana knew that the Bhima's fighting spirit was not fully ignited to fight for the Kauravas. This is the interpretation of our acharyas, that there's a subconscious doubt. Outwardly, he's saying that my army is unlimited, but then he knows that, oh my God, there's an inner admission that we might not make it. So it says that ego speaks louder than the words that we are trying to cover up. It's obvious in some cases. We may see that that person is winning the argument, but then if we look at their lives, they may be struggling. They may be struggling with their sadhana or relationships. So it's not actually always what it appears. And Ramanujacharya, how many of you know Ramanujacharya? Heard? He's a Sri Sampradaya Acharya. So Ramanujacharya also actually says that Duryodhana was actually grief-stricken. I mean, who would think that? Who would think that Duryodhana was grief-stricken? You see him that he's angry, but you see him that he's sad. No. So sometimes within our communities, in our families, we may see each other as angry, but behind that anger is sadness. So what is that sadness? A sadness blinded by ego. This is Ramanujacharya saying that a picture of a man blinded by ego. And Prahlad Maharaj actually says, Andhaya thande rupaniya manas. I'm drowning in my own fear and shame and anxiety and guilt, but then I'm covering it by saying, no, you should listen to me, my way or highway. And who is at loss? I am at loss. So the idea is that the enemy is within. This is the fundamental teaching of Bhagavad-gita. So that the Kurukshetra war is actually happening in our hearts every day. I'm choosing. What am I choosing? Am I choosing God or am I choosing the army? What did Duryodhana choose?
Army.
Yeah, Duryodhana had a choice. He could choose Krishna easily. And what did he think? Aparyaptam tadasmakam. He thought, Krishna alone, what can he do? It's aparyaptam for me. So I will choose the army. But then what did he end up doing? A foolish mistake. So similarly, I'm waking up. I'm saying if it's related to you, you take it. If it's not, don't take it. I wake up every morning and I have to choose. Am I choosing Krishna or am I choosing my ego? In every relationship, do I want God's will or do I want my will? My will is to choose the army. Typical Duryodhana mentality. I want power. I want strength. But it's not very wise. So if we are truly committed to victory in our life, we should look at the enemy within. Because the greatest enemy will always remain that ego, inner enemy of pride. Okay, I will pause here. Anybody has any questions? No, everybody's on board. So yes, Prabhu.
How will we defeat to our ego? What is the processing? Because everyone has some ego, some particularly somewhere. So how will we defeat this ego? What is the processing?
How do we defeat this ego? I would say there's two angles of answer to that question. First of all, Krishna says, make your mind your friend, because it's easy to make your mind your enemy. Enemy means tamas guna. Tamas guna means becoming depressed. Oh, I have all these anarthas in me. I'm jealous, I'm envious. I become depressed. I don't go to meet devotees anymore. I don't go to the temple anymore. I don't study scriptures anymore. Because scripture says, don't do this, don't do that. So I feel like, oh, I don't want to deal with that. So in tamas guna, defeating ego becomes like looking at the mind as an enemy. It's very dangerous. So our acharyas say that we should try to make friends with the mind. So to listen to the mind, Manashiksha, the best book to defeat the ego, or I'd say to befriend the ego, would be Manashiksha by Raghunath Das Goswami, and there's a commentary by various contemporary Vaishnavas. So it's an amazing book that teaches us when and how to discriminate, especially for a sadhaka. There's this heavy analogy in that book. It says that sometimes I may be thinking, oh, I'm giving such a nice class, or I'm doing such nice kirtan, oh, I'm doing such nice deity dressing. So in that book, Manashiksha, it says, it is the Duryodhana mentality there is, you know what it compares to? Bathing in donkey urine. It's a heavy analogy. So the moment that I'm thinking, I am so good at reciting shlokas or giving class, actually speaking Shastra, service is meant to cleanse myself. Taking a bath. When I take bath, I'm supposed to feel clean. But the spiritual danger is, see what Duryodhana is doing with Bhishma and Drona. So the spiritual danger is to give in to that validation that I'm looking for. And then I actually am taking bath with donkey urine. Does that clean me? It makes me feel sticky. So that's a rajas guna level of dealing with the ego. If I try to do the opposite of depression, no, don't worry, you're the best, the other person is at mistake, you are right. If I go in the passion rajas guna mentality, then I am trapped. Why? Because it binds me. It makes me sticky with the donkey urine. I mean, it stinks. Donkey urine stinks. So it is not also a solution to deal with the ego by telling the ego, no, you are better, everybody is wrong. What is the Sattvaguna way? So the Sattvaguna way of dealing with the ego is not to make it the enemy, but also not to give it the position of the throne, but to deal with it like we would deal with a little 3-year-old. Kind, gentle, listen, compassionate, but discipline it. I was also thinking, one powerful way that I have found how to deal with this monkey mind, this is what it says, monkey mind. 1 minute it's here, 1 minute it's there. You take your japamala, you try to chant, you'll see the monkey mind coming up. How many of you chant on the beads? Have you tried chanting? Yeah, it's an amazing experience. Maybe at the end of the session, if we have japamalas, we can, yeah. So you will see that monkey, you will meet your monkey mind. I have met mine. So one example I want to give you, which is a very powerful way of Sattvaguna way of dealing with the mind. Like you've seen football coach or cricket coach. How does a coach deal with the people? Because each person has their own capacity. Somebody is great at batting and someone else is great at bowling. That's for those who are into cricket. And those who are into soccer, someone is really great at making goals. Someone else is really good in passing the ball. So the coach looks at the strength of the participants and he looks at the weakness of the participants, but does not discourage them. Similarly, when we look at our own anarthas or weaknesses, first thing we have to do is not put ourselves down. Second thing is don't deny it. So it's already 50% of the problem is solved. When I can admit I have this whatever issue, I have my anger, I have my laziness, I have a tendency to be critical, I have a tendency to be negative towards others. Whatever is your donkey urine, I don't know what it is. So if I can identify that, and then I approach the lotus feet of the Lord and say, hey Govinda, I cannot do this alone. Please help me. So our acharyas actually say that the more I think, I know how to fix this marriage, I know how to fix this community, I know how to do this thing, we are trapped. That's the Duryodhana mentality. The minute we become like Arjuna and say, Krishna, I don't want the army. All I want is your guidance. Then we are giving our life and our will in the care of the Lord. Then the Lord knows better who is the right partner, how should the children be raised, what profession should the child be in. The Lord knows better. So the way to deal with the mind is to give it to the Lord in humility, but with awareness. Is it helpful?
Yeah.
Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Because it's very easy to do the tamas guna way. But Mahatma Prabhu often said, guilt and shame, it doesn't really help us to progress in spiritual life. That's tamas guna way of dealing with the mind. But we have to discipline it. So that there's a very, very thin line between tamas guna and sattva guna.
Our mind sometimes trains, sometimes when
Yeah.
it is very difficult to control him and very difficult to explain him what to do, what to not do.
Yeah.
Krishna said, Chanchala hi mana Krishna. Arjuna said, so fast, mind anywhere can go. So what is the processing to control our mind?
We have to sit down with the mind and have a communication. Manashiksha means communicating with the mind, having a dialogue with the mind. Like we tell a small child, how do we explain? This is where you keep your toys. This is where you keep your clothes. This is what you do. So we did give it this you eat, this you don't eat. So similarly, there are little parts in us. Actually, I'm coming to that part here, how ego ruins relationship. The drama of Kurukshetra, right? It's not just a story that happened 5,000 years ago. It's not. We could see it just as a history, or we can see it as something truly to learn in our everyday life. Conflicts that we experience. Like I said, the conflict is inside us. The karmic relationships, the ego battles. If you know the story of Shikandi, it's not a story of one life, lifetimes. Bhishma Dev, she wanted to kill Bhishma. So she came back again. So we know the story. And that's not just 5,000 years ago. In my professional life, I've seen many couples, they come back another lifetime to complete lessons. Husband and wife. The wife was the husband was the wife. They come back again. Even spiritual communities, they come back, they're experiencing the same emotions. Why? Because they have to complete the cycle. They had to complete that cycle where the real battle is to learn the lesson. I mean, I know it sounds very like cliche or very theoretical. What does it mean, learn the lesson? How do I know what is my lesson? Again, only way is to take shelter of the Lord, to pray to the Lord and ask Him, why am I facing difficulty in this relationship? What is your will for me in this situation? Otherwise, this resentment, because see, Duryodhana's biggest problem was resentment. He kept it in. He was never able to express it in a healthy way. But in our marital relationships, also resentment can be one of the problems. For example, a husband or wife may say, I'm doing everything right. You are the one at fault. That's another Duryodhana's outlook, right? With his cousins. The truth is this, by chanting Hare Krishna, by following principles, it helps spiritually, but emotionally we need to make efforts. We need to also do our part. We have to keep our side of the road clean. It's very easy to point the fingers at the other, but then the three fingers, when we point at somebody's pointing at us. So these karmic relationship, these ego clashes can be even in spiritual communities, unfortunately. So how do we deal with that? Same thing, like you said with the mind, Chanchalahi Mana Krishna, because of that mind, the Kurukshetra war happened. It was not because of the Kauravas and the Pandavas, and it was not the land. The land was only the tip of the iceberg. Kingdom was only the tip of the iceberg. Underneath that, if you look inside, there was all these ego battles, all these conflicts, all these unresolved resentment, all these issues of childhood trauma. very important how we conceive children, how we raise children. Duryodhana was conceived with the sole motivation for the throne. You remember how much Dhritarashtra was obsessed? He wanted a son. For what? Just so he can become the king. So his obsession was so strong. He cultivated Duryodhana's ego and more and more and more for the throne that at the end, Duryodhana didn't care anymore about Dhritarashtra. So sometimes we may be raising our children through our ambition, not through devotion. We are not teaching our children surrender to God's will, be somebody that God's want you to be the Arjuna basically. We are nourishing the Duryodhana in them. Be selfish, go out in the world, be the first one, compete with others. We may not say that, but subtly, we may be putting them in an environment where everybody is competitive. And then, in India, many stories like this. They want the children to study, study, study. They want the children to go abroad, go abroad, go abroad. And then the child goes abroad and never goes back. And the parents are crying in their old age alone, right? You know the experience. How many of you had that? You've seen in your families, relatives. So if we are not clear about the intention of why am I having this argument? Why am I in this particular relational difficulty? If I'm not clear about my intention, if I'm not clear about what do I want my child to cultivate, and if I'm just putting my ego in the center, we'll end up more and more feeling like how Duryodhana felt. What did he feel? He felt his lower nature take over. There's a good dog and a bad dog inside us. The good is the one who wants to do the right thing. The bad is the one who says, no, compromise, break the rule, try to do all things in a crooked way. So the ego battles is painful. And I'll tell you, in my experience as an astrologer, it will continue lifetime after lifetime. If I don't deal with it now, next life, role reversal, husband becomes wife, wife becomes husband, father becomes son, son becomes father, same ego battles. So we can't escape reality. That's what I'm saying. Once we enter the battlefield of Kurukshetra of life, we can't escape. So for example, some people are blessed with a good mind, sattvic mind. They are honest, they are loyal. Some people have a crooked mind. We see that in astrology. When some moon is positioned in some places, Rahu is giving trouble in some places, people have a little crooked mind. And sometimes we have to deal with these people who have a crooked mind. How do we deal with that person? Bhagavatam says we should deal with people who have a crooked mind with compassion. Are Baba, if I do that, they will be dominating us. They'll take over, right? If you let somebody whose ego is driving them and you become compassionate with them, they'll take more advantage, right or wrong? So what to do? How to deal with somebody with a crooked mind? Anybody has any examples, experience you want to share? What is your secret solution? How do you deal with somebody crooked mind? Many options, right? Yes, Prabhu.
I try to stay away from the person.
Same. I think you can be farthest.
Because Chaitanya Charitamrita says, Asat Sanga Tyagahi Vaishnava Achar. So, of course, I am not a devotee, but I want to be at that state. So, for me, better is to avoid that person.
Avoiding the person. That's the external behavior, right?
Respectful distance.
And what about internally?
What you feel is correct to do. I feel if that person is very, then you don't avoid it, but when you have to face it, you agree with them. But internally, what you action you do as per your.
Yeah, my grandmother would say the same thing actually. Externally you nod your head and then you do what feels right to you. Yeah. Gunadhamat anukroshan gunadikan mudam lipse. This is what Srimad Bhagavatam says. That if somebody has a lower nature than you, somebody has a crooked mind, then what do? we take a distance, we look at them, but we don't harbor resentment. We don't take the poison. We look at them and say, Krishna, please bless them. They have some durbuddhi, so give them some sadbuddhi. But also give me sadbuddhi to learn how to deal with this situation. So sometimes we say spiritual life means no, we should not discriminate. But Bhagavatam doesn't say that. Bhagavatam says you should discriminate. We should discriminate and make sure which association is good and which association is bad for you. So Gunadamat. Gunadamat is somebody who is lower. What about Gunadikam? What do you do if you find somebody more qualified than you? What's the natural emotion? When somebody's better than me, yes, I feel jealous, right? Oh, why do I not have that? Oh my God, Prabhuji sings so well. I wish I could sing like that. So there's an emotion of jealousy. But Bhagavatam says we should develop appreciation. When I develop appreciation, Krishna is saying, oh, this person appreciates this. So we will be blessed with the same qualities. But if for example, Prabhuji sings so nicely and I say, oh, this is so beautiful. I'm able to connect to Krishna listening to this bhajan. If I'm able to appreciate, then I'm welcoming the energetic vibration of appreciating music to be able to sing to Krishna's holy name. But instead, if I say, oh my God, this person sings so well, I cannot sing, so I will criticize this person. And I may say something like, oh, that's not so important to sing. It's more important to learn Shastra. See what I think? That's the Duryodhana mentality there. To put someone else down because I don't have that quality. Then I'm actually weaving a trap, telling Krishna, I don't want that. So whenever, even money, even if I want money, if I look at somebody rich and I can appreciate, oh, that person must have worked really hard in this life and in the previous life maybe. So if I appreciate that, Krishna sees that, oh, I appreciate money. But if I put someone down and say, hey, they must have cheated and got this money, then I'm actually telling Krishna, I don't want money. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I'm articulating this principle, but very important to teach that to our children also. If I want some particular type of a quality, I should appreciate that person. And if I don't want a particular quality, we should feel compassion but discriminate. You want to add something to this principle? No? Okay, no. Anybody else has any other question? Anyone has any questions online?
When the people ask questions online? Online, yeah, I'm not joining online. Oh, then can not do that. Understand? Some I think.
Because I feel like right now we are very much on the theory level. I want to see if you have any practical question, any reflection about what does it mean for us to look inside. Yes, Prabhuji.
One point, Mataji, you were mentioning very important is Duryodhana never revealed his vulnerability to any superior. For example, Vishvanatha, he never communicated to them, and similar situation we may also be facing. We may be having weakness. Maybe sometimes we can identify, sometimes we cannot identify, but point is how to identify a superior whom we can reveal this vulnerability to. Because of Kali Yuga, there is always a chance that if we reveal our vulnerability, then people may exploit us. So how to understand that this person is really person whom I can express my vulnerability and overcome my weakness?
Mhm.
How to understand that?
Good question. There is again like Sattva Guna, Rajas Guna, and Tamas Guna of choosing somebody. In Sattva Guna, we approach a superior or somebody, we take shelter in the mood of prayer. Yes, sometimes mistakes can happen. We may open our minds to somebody who is not the right person, but it's not the end of the world. We can always try again because sometimes we try and maybe our faith is broken, and then we think that I'll not trust anymore. So there is a danger of that. And then in tamas guna, like I said, like I'll never open my heart again. This person took advantage of me. That was a little bit Duryodhana's situation, because his parents wouldn't understand him. From the womb, he was actually cultivating that sense of envy and anger. And then on the practical level, I would say the best way is to find somebody who understands our nature. Not just because they are in position of authority, not just because they have a lot of followers, but somebody who is like-minded. My Shiksha Guru often said that it's very important to find like-minded Sangha, people whose value systems are on an equal level. Otherwise, what happens, somebody may be a spiritualist, another may be a spiritualist, but their value system, their natures may be very different. Like once I remember in Mayapur, there was a senior devotee whose value system was, in order for you to be successful, you need to be in a position of power. So another devotee had just moved to Mayapur, and this devotee was saying, you will never be happy in life. And this person thought, why is the senior devotee saying this to me? And then I said, go back and ask, what is the value system of this devotee? And then the devotee was grateful. I told him to clarify when he went and asked, Prabhuji, why did you say that I'll never be happy in Mayapur? And the person said, because you will never be in a position of power. You will never become successful. So, Prabhuji, what is your definition of success? And this person said, it means you need to have authority. But for this other devotee, those things were not so important. So sometimes we are taking advice from some seniors, but their idea of success may be money. Their idea of successful marriage might be this particular thing. So when we don't have it, they think you're not. So it's very important to find association which is like-minded. Does it help?
Yes.
Or sometimes it's even about somebody may be more Brahminical, somebody is more inclined towards Shastric studies. So we go and associate with them. And someone else may be a business person. And you feel also, I'm also very much a Vaishya, so I need to associate with somebody who relates to the business world. And somebody else, you may say, no, I want to take shelter. I want to be somebody who is more serving others. And we see those people who have the same value system.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Okay, let me see what I want to end with. So I said about the acid, what destroys relationships is arrogance, control, insecurity, denial. That's the acid that we should avoid. And what should we cultivate? We should cultivate gems. Just remember, G stands for gratitude. E stands for empathy. To not think, oh, why is this person so angry? To try to see why this person may be angry. Maybe this person feels insecure. So not to take it personally, but to actually, like you said, take a distance, but internally align to the fact that they may have their struggles. To not judge them as evil, but to see them as somebody struggling. And then we get the same with ourselves, not to put myself down, but to look at myself with respect. And mutual respect means we don't stay in a place somebody doesn't respect us. So there has to be mutual respect. And self-awareness, honesty. Look at myself and see where I stand. Okay, so that's the conclusion. We will end here with our favorite Bhagavad-gita verse, if you like to repeat. Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna,
Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna,
Yatra Partho Dhanurdaraha. So where there is Krishna
Where there is Krishna
and Arjuna,
and Arjuna,
there's always success,
yes, sir.
even in a marriage. So we should put Krishna in the center. Wherever Krishna is, wherever the Arjuna means the devotees are, we will be safe in that association. So we can end here. Thank you very much for your attention. Bhagavad-gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Yeah.